Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Decision Hour. I am your host, Adam Burt, and with me, back at it, behind the mic from a faraway land, my buddy John. John, how are you?
Doing great. Doing fantastic.
We are continuing this series called Let's Have a Conversation. And this particular episode, we got several in the queue right now, but this one's getting pumped out right away because of everything that has transpired within the last week. And this week we're going to talk about Afghanistan and everything that's going on, the pullout, how it all went down, what's going on, and maybe what to expect or what we think might happen moving forward. So, John, being the fact that you are in the Middle East area, what is the tensions like over there right now?
Yeah, so I'd say that it's real tense, and mostly because we've just become very unstable, and I think everyone, but especially Americans, are they are feeling a little nervous tonight about what might occur, and I'm sure there's a lot of real nervous Iraqis here in Iraq as well, wondering what would happen if the Iranian-backed Shia militias were able to take over here. So I would just generally say that my sense is that tensions are definitely heightened. I think it's I can speak for here. I think it's actually fairly stable. We're expecting things may heat up as we get into the fall. There's some symbolic dates. There's September 11th. There's other symbolic dates, and that may be ripe. But we've also got emboldened enemies worldwide. We've shown ourselves to be a paper tiger. I think that some of the very powerful opposition, enemies like Russia and China, and certainly Iran are very, very, they're feeling real good tonight. They're the winners. And we're going to see if they're going to test us.
Yeah, so you hit on a lot of things right there. How do I want to discuss this? Paper tiger. It's a paper tiger.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? I haven't heard that analogy before, but I like that. So the rest of the world is laughing at us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russia, China in particular, and I'll get into them here in a second.
Yeah.
But we've shown our weakness. We've shown that we are weak as a country. And I'm saying we, meaning this administration, has shown that we're how do we used to say it? Tore up from the floor up, right? And we can't. There's nothing that we can't do. We've shown our hand, if we had one really to begin with. And then you look at China, and I want to bring up China. This is a very hard subject for me because I've been studying this China for the last several years. 6-7 years ago, when they started building those islands in the South China Sea, nobody thought anything of it. It was just like, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to let them do that. Well, you realize that that's a main area of transport for cargo ships is in that area, in that region. That loses a lot of access to things that we maybe with trade and whatnot. And then you have Iran that controls the
Straits of Hormuz.
Thank you. Up there. So now we're in we've kind of sectioned ourselves off from that. Now, the other thing about China is they've built those islands. They have military capabilities from those islands right now. As this podcast goes out, China has military personnel on those islands right now. That is not far from Taiwan. And that is a country that we really need to be keeping our eye on right now and what's happening there. And I've predicted that something is going to happen before Christmas of this year. I pray that it doesn't, but unfortunately, with the China's track record and given their history and stuff, I think something is going to go down there in Southeast Asia very, very soon. And I think we're, let me ask you this, John. Are we on the breaks of World War III?
God, I hope to hell not.
I hate to say that, and I'm not. Folks, let me back up and say this. The show's called The Decision Hour, and we have to make hard decisions each and every day. And John and I, when we came together to start this series of Let's Have a Conversation, we made that decision to have these tough conversations. And I think we initially started with like 4 or 5 topics, and we're well over 10 at this point, and we keep coming up with different things. And this may be the new Decision Hour of Let's Have a Conversation series, because it's stuff like this that we have to make a decision of what we are going to do. If you are sitting at home and you are tired of seeing what's going on in the country that you live in right now, then it's time for you to make the decision, get up and do something about it. Stop bitching about it and start making a stand. And it starts with 1, listening to this podcast, but 2, getting involved with your local political, it starts at the local level, and you have to start within with your borough, your town, your city, and then county to state level. Start locally and start making changes, positive changes there. And you, not once in this rant that I'm on have I said, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way, you need to vote for these people or that people. I'm not telling you who to vote for. That's not what we're here for. We're here to give you another outlook, maybe a view of what it's like to look from outside of the box that you are currently in. That's it. That's what we are here to do. And Afghanistan, what's going on right now, whether you think we should have been there or not is irrelevant. Personally, we never should have went there. And there's and I can sprout out all kinds of different conspiracy theories about the government and why we ended up in Afghanistan to begin with. People want to say, well, it's Trump's fault. Well, actually, I would agree with you to a very small percentage of that, because I don't necessarily, although it's the current administration's fault on how it was handled, I can't believe I'm going to say this on air. I don't necessarily believe that it's this administration's fault completely, because we've had other administrations in place over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think if you're going to, and I tell you what, Adam, because I'm about to drop a big bomb.
Let it go.
Right. Real quick, let's take a pause. Can you give me permission to record?
Yes, please.
I think you got to grant me permission somehow.
Oh, do I? All right, let me see here.
If you don't know how to do it, it's fine. We'll just not do it. But I didn't want to break your momentum there, man.
No. Let me see here. Well, here, I'll just record it and send this to you.
Okay, sounds good. Easy enough. Easy day.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Look at that.
There we go. Now we got video, folks, for this.
All right. So I want to kind of back up just a little bit. We had talked about the purpose of the decision hour.
Yeah.
And people, our purpose here, the way I kind of soundbited it, is I've said, hey, we are here to equip and to equip people, and to educate people, and to inspire people to take action in the world with courage and truth.
Right.
So this week, when this whole debacle began to unfold, initially I was super quick to throw blame around, and Biden's such an idiot, and everybody's everybody's an absolute mental patient, completely incompetent. And that is probably still true, but that's more of an opinion. Very quickly, I was wanting to throw blame anywhere. Now, I want everybody to listen to me very carefully for the next 5 seconds. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, folks. We let this happen. This is our fault. And we need to look in the mirror, and we need to stand up, and we need to take responsibility. And that means owning up to our part in this. Who did you vote for? Why did you vote for those people? Were you educated when you went to the voting booth?
No.
Did you have a conversation with other people around you? Did you know what the heck you were doing when you went to work for a particular campaign? Have you never figured out why it is you have a belief that that may be not in line with the founding principles that America stands for or should stand for? What is your part in it? And I'll tell you what, I've looked in the mirror. Did I do enough? And I'm awakened now, but and I'm on podcasts and I'm doing videos and I'm posting, articles, and I'm doing as much as I can, but I certainly was, like much of America these days, self-absorbed and felt like doing my civic duty was just going and voting. As long as I voted for a candidate that wasn't completely nuts, I could feel like I was being a good citizen. But I don't think that's enough now. And when we have a colossal failure on the world stage, it is already being called the worst diplomatic foreign relations debacle in the history of the United States. Right?
That's saying a lot right there.
And I just want my message to be really clear. I think my main message on today's podcast is we each carry a share of the blame for this debacle.
Right.
But moving on, we were talking, or at least I was getting ready to talk a little bit about, where does blame go? Well, having been somewhat peripherally involved in this evacuation from here in Iraq, our leaders are lying to us.
John, that's a pretty bold. That's a very bold statement.
Okay, so I'll soften it just a bit, but it's not going to sound like I'm softening it. All right, General Milne still maintains that his tasking from the president was to secure the embassy in Kabul and secure the Kabul airport. And he says the military did not have enough people in country to protect Bagram. For those who don't know, Bagram was an airfield about 20 miles north of Kabul. It's a fortress and would have been a great place to work out of, to slowly draw things down. Tremendous capability there, and we let it go. So I would look the good general right in the eye, and there's several statements he's made this week, and I would say, sir, you're either a mental patient or you're lying. Which is it? Because there's no middle ground. Nobody, Adam, is taking any responsibility. The president came out and he gave a pitiful excuse for a speech, walked off the stage to go get ice cream or donuts or something, and then did an interview with George Stephanopoulos. Was it last night or the night before, in which Stephanopoulos was actually, for once in his life, trying to ask some tough questions, and Biden very arrogantly and narcissistically refused to take any sort of responsibility or to acknowledge that this thing was not going well.
It amazes me that he doesn't take any responsibility, considering that he was the VP in one of these administrations during the last 20 years of what's gone on in Afghanistan.
Back to your point, there's plenty of blame to go around.
Right.
And probably if you want to lay the most blame at anybody's feet, it's George W. Bush.
Right.
If you want to lay the most blame, because everybody else kind of had to deal with the mess that he started, right?
Right. And that's why I said it. Like, I don't necessarily... The way that it was handled definitely falls on this administration. How it started does not entirely. Although the fact that Uncle Joe has been in some type of political spectrum with this for the last 20 plus years, in the 60 plus years that he's been in public office, he's got to take some type of the blame. And he was in charge of something during the Obama administration that kicked off. Like, he was part of the foreign relation thing. And don't quote me on what the foreign relations side of it, but he was in charge of something that had something to do with Afghanistan and the relationship, and how it was all put together. And then people are like, well, the Trump administration could have did this and that. He got rid of a couple of bad guys. And he kind of initiated the process of, hey, let's get our troops out of Afghanistan. Was there an actual plan in place? There was one that was being started that I know of, at least from what I have heard. But then to go around and take that and then just be like, all right, this is what we're doing, and then announce it publicly without any and then follow through with it, and then you see what happens. If you're going to leave a country, you shouldn't, make it public after you're already gone. But then at the same time, you should have had, security overwatch and backup plans in place and all of that. And that wasn't. It was just like, I woke up this morning, John, and I said, John, pack your shit, get on the plane. We're leaving this afternoon. And that's basically how it went down.
Adam, that's exactly how it went down. Most of our folks have got a backpack. Basically a carry-on. Most of our folks came out of there. We left. You know what? I better not talk about what got left.
Right.
You and I talked about it when we weren't recording, but
right.
The shit that.
Listen, the stuff that there are enough news articles and memes and pictures that are going around right now that you can see what we've left. And I'm going to say this because this is one of the things that really pissed me off this week. I saw a meme where the Taliban now has access to drones, vehicles, all this other stuff, but our administration is saying it's not safe to carry or to have an AR-15 in your house. This is the only time I'll make a statement about something like that. But I want you guys to think. This is a time in your life where you have to make a decision, and that decision hour right now is upon you. And if you have a government telling you can't own a firearm, but then they turn around and they're giving basically an arsenal to the Taliban, who should you really be worried about?
Guess what the Taliban's doing right now? I don't know if it's being reported. Guess what they're doing?
Oh, God.
Same subject. Guess what they're doing?
I'm not
going around. They're collecting weapons from the population.
That's right. I did see that. Yeah, they're getting all private weapons from people.
Yep.
But they're playing. And here's the thing: when it was, they shout, the CNN reporter, because she's a moron, said they're shouting "Death to America," but they seem peaceful. And like one day she was wearing civilian clothes. And then the next day when she did that, she was wearing the traditional robe that women wear. And what gets me is that I don't remember, and I don't. This is just me saying this. I don't remember how many women have actually been around the Taliban and were able to live long enough to do a story about it. I remember a lot of men being around the Taliban reporting stories. I don't remember a lot of women being around a terrorist group and then getting away with saying what they said.
No, and I've got so much to say about the Taliban. I coined a phrase that I've now made into a meme that apparently is getting a little traction. But when Donald Trump's regime or administration was announced that they were negotiating with the Taliban, I turned to one of my friends and I said, I would rather negotiate with a bucket full of rattlesnakes
I did see that,
than with the Taliban. And that's a no shitter. I turned right to whoever it was that I was talking to, and I said that, and I stand by that. Anybody who has dealt with these people before knows that they are absolutely brutal, and they are 100% dedicated to what they do, and nothing escapes.
I looked at the whole Trump thing, like I was surprised at first, but then I look at it like that was a business proposition is what it boils down to.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm saying it was a business proposition. And here's how it ties in with what's happened this week is that you look at the Taliban. There's protesting that was going on this morning over there when I saw, I don't know if you saw the news on that, but that was as of this morning, there was protesting. There was women in the streets whom were protesting, and there wasn't any, there was not any, they were allowing everybody to protest. There wasn't any violence or anything like that during these protests. So the Taliban had stayed back and they're letting these people protest. How long do you think that that's going to last? Right?
It's already stopped, Adam.
And
I can tell you it's already stopped.
And if you look at, and I posted something about history because John, and you're a history buff, we've talked about in past episodes, you and I have talked about here in the United States, taking down statues, trying to rewrite history or trying to erase history from it, right?
Yeah.
This is one of those situations outside of the United States is look at Afghanistan, look at the Taliban, look at history. Learn from the history so you don't repeat it.
Adam, I 100% agree. Unfortunately, there's another quote, and I can't remember who said it, but the quote was, "What we learn from history is that we don't learn from history."
That's so damn.
Which is
that's
so true.
Yeah. And
now
and sad.
I love the direction we're going with this conversation, but I gotta throw a frag in the room.
Okay.
I gotta throw a frag in the room, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing the look on your face when I throw this one out there. All right. So in past episodes, I've made a back of the napkin case that wokeism is a religion. We just it was sort of an aside that we did in one of the podcasts. Now, I want you to think about where wokeism has taken us and what it is doing. And when I say wokeism, I'm using that as a sort of a symbol for the left. What the left has done to our country with Antifa and the whole BLM fiasco and what's going on in education, suppression of free speech, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to ask the question. First of all, I'm going to make a statement. Wokeism is a fundamentalist ideology that is not very different from the fundamentalist religious beliefs of the Taliban. Look at what they're doing. They're suppressing free speech, suppressing free thought, suppressing freedom of expression, oppressing people based on their status that they can't control, like being a woman or, being from another country or being a Christian or being a Jew or whatever. They're taking control by force. They are basically killing or beating or shouting down and running off anybody who opposes them. They're now disarming the populace, which is the dream of the left. That is their, that is their one of their highest goals. That's one of their Mount Surabachis. Now, let me ask you this. In America, we cancel somebody for a 20-year-old remark, for a offhanded remark they made 20 years ago. Somebody, maybe a prominent, businessman or something. Next thing we know, that person's life is ruined. They may have lost their job. They may have lost money trying to defend themselves because they've gotten canceled. Now, how is that different than in Afghanistan, where the Taliban is stoning somebody for playing music or cutting off a hand or a finger because they stole a piece of food from the market because they were hungry? In terms of ideology and its complete lack of grace.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I asked myself that question, and I couldn't.
You're painting a picture, and I mean, you're not wrong.
I don't think I am.
The difference, I would say, the difference is that here, what we see here is, I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to lose listeners. The mainstream media is our Taliban here, meaning they have control over what we see, what we are led to believe. And it's not just the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is being told by the powers to be or whatnot. So when you listen to this, I'm not saying that it's just the mainstream media, because it's not. They're a big part of it, and I think they're toxic waste in my opinion. And I've said that for years. But I think if you look at it, they're doing the same thing that the Taliban is doing. Well, and I know some of you out there right now are just like, this guy's crazy. The Taliban are doing this. They rape women. They kill people. They do this. They do that. And you're right. You're not wrong in that assessment.
They're both fundamentalist ideologies.
We're just the mainstream media here in the United States is just doing it differently. They're killing you softly. They're killing you. They're torturing you long term. They're breaking you down, feeding you their opinions, not facts, but opinions. And it's the same thing with the CDC. I said it. The CDC is the same thing. You got to trust. A friend of mine who, for years, you got to trust the science. No, you don't. Who's feeding the science? Population. Who's telling you that you have to believe the science? I believe in science. I don't necessarily believe the science. There's a big difference there, folks.
There is a big difference. Let's not forget that science is a constantly evolving thing, and we often find out years later that something we thought was a decent treatment for a disease or a decent therapy for something was real quackery and very harmful. Somebody gets sick and the doctor comes in and bleeds you, right? That's just an example of a very common practice that, as we got more advanced and we learned more, we found out was actually harmful. So science is constantly evolving, and we don't know what we don't know. And I just think with regard to, particularly with the COVID vaccine, I just think people, I'm not going to say I think. People should be in control of their medical decisions. I mean, I can't imagine anything more personal.
But John, you're talking common sense now, and we can't have that. in this country, because that would
You're right.
make sense. So I'm going to stop you right there because I can. And I am stopping you from saying something that could potentially hurt yourself for that, because I care, because I feel like I'm part of the government and I care. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
I know.
Just stop.
It's all about keeping you safe.
Stop.
Thank you, Adam.
I'm trying to keep you safe from yourself. So please watch what you say, because I will have to mute your mic moving forward then.
Okay. I understand now. Yeah. Can I wear a mask too?
I like calling them face diapers now, but anyway.
I love
So
I love it. I picked that up from Bongino. I heard him saying that, and I'm like, I'm stealing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got to diaper up, man.
Yeah.
You got to diaper up.
I mean, folks, I tell you, it's like it's one of these things where John and I are not telling you what to think or what to believe. We're telling you merely our opinions, and unlike mainstream media, we will tell you that it is our opinion, as opposed to some of these mainstream media hacks that are out there that say, well, this is the facts. This isn't the facts. The mainstream media job, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again for you, those of you in the back, or those of you that are just tuning in. The mainstream media job is to provoke an emotional reaction from you. They don't give a damn about whether or not they're telling the truth, because they can always fix the story later. It's all about who can get to the story first. And then they'll like, oh, we were wrong, so now we're going to update this story. Well, maybe if you actually did your job, and this is coming from somebody that's not a journalist, that didn't go to school for journalism. This is somebody that I like to think has some street smarts and just some basic fucking common sense. Yes, I dropped the F-bomb because it's getting to that point now. It's time to make a decision and wake the hell up, people. And again, whether you're for the vaccine or against it, it doesn't matter. Me personally, I'm not going to get it. And if you think that I'm endangering you, that's your opinion. Stay the fuck away from me then. I don't know what to tell you. Majority of my family members have taken it. I see them. I love them. I don't think any differently of them. They feel safe. That's fine. It's just not for me. And what really is, now I'm on my soapbox here, you get these things that say, the vaccine this, vaccine that. Where are all the people that my body, my choice? Where are all of those people right now? Nobody's saying my body, my choice. None of that stuff's happening now. So that only ties in when it's convenient for them and it fits their narrative. And it's the same thing with Afghanistan. However you want to look at it. Like, I've been following a lot of vets on social media that have said stuff to it. Listen, if you've served in Afghanistan, I personally did. I served in Iraq. I did not make the Afghan trip. Call us. We're here to help first and foremost, and we love you. We're here to listen. And whether and no, furthermore, you didn't do anything wrong. We didn't lose these wars. Politicians did. It has nothing to do with us. It affects us,
Adam,
but it has nothing to do. It wasn't anything that we did. Period.
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you what, you and I, before we started the show today, we're talking about, hey, how you doing? And I was telling you kind of my story of how I felt and how I ended up talking to a lot of other vets. I had dudes, I got on a Zoom call with my old co-pilot from Afghanistan. Talked to another one of my old co-pilots from Afghanistan that same day. I was really feeling it, and I'm about to finish up a video. I've actually it's posted, but in one of the updates, the Afghanistan updates I did, where I closed out with this, but I'm gonna break it out as a separate video as just a message to Afghanistan war veterans. And the essence of what I say in there is that if I could go back and I could be there with all of you guys again, and I could go back 20 years and be there with you guys again, I would go. All right. Because you guys are the ones who made it worthwhile, which may sound a little funny to civilians, but the military guys get it, that being there and doing that job and working together and being there together That's what it's about. And I don't need any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
It's so. What do we do? What happens now? I guess let's transition to this a little bit. So what happens now? We've moved out of Afghanistan, although now we're sending 2,500, 3,500 troops back.
You know what? I've got the number here. We now have, as of this afternoon, 5,000 troops on the ground there.
5,000 troops in Afghanistan right now.
Yeah. We were maintaining the status quo with 2,500.
Right.
And this gets into Dan Crenshaw's argument about, hey, look, we had 2,500 there. It was status quo. It was going okay. We kind of should have just done that, because now it's costing us billions upon billions just to get our people out, whereas we kind of could have done this on the cheap. And when I heard him make that case yesterday, I was like, you know what? He's kind of right. I'm still of the opinion we should have gotten out of Afghanistan, but when you start looking at some of the geopolitical implications here, so what happens now, we're not sure, but here's what we do know. We do know there's a power vacuum there in Afghanistan. Yeah, Taliban's there, but that's not real power that can be projected. We know China is poised to move in there. They already own the largest copper mine.
Who's to say they're not funding it?
They very well could be funding it.
Right.
They very well could be funding it. But China will have, I think, personally, this is based on no intelligence. This is based on nothing other than just me looking at the map and what I understand about the world right now is China can pay off the warlords, pay off the Taliban, keep the Taliban happy, send them some more 12-year-old girls, and allow them to continue to off people in the soccer stadium as entertainment on a daily basis. And China can operate in there. Now, through that influence, they have an easy route to also liaise with Iran, who is obviously much more advanced, much more of a real threat, to the United States and the West. But they can control the Straits of Hormuz. So by proxy, with influence exercised, with these ties through Afghanistan into Iran, it's much easier for China now to coordinate something like, hey guys, we'll fund you. We'll give you some money. We'll give you some equipment. We'd really like for you guys to shut down the Straits of Hormuz now. And oh, by the way, China has a base in Djibouti, which would allow them to control the, I won't say the whole Red Sea, but basically the Red Sea, I forgot the name of the strait down there at the southern end of the southern end of the Red Sea, but it's like Bab el-Mandeb or something like that. I was hoping I maybe had it written up here someplace, but
the other thing, when you look at Afghanistan, and you mentioned two superpowers, Russia and China, and I'd go as far as saying India and Iran. One thing we have not brought up is now that China is, let's say that China is funding some of the Taliban or pays off the Taliban to just basically leave China alone, let them do whatever they want, kind of hired guns, if you will.
Yeah.
Who's going to have the new nuclear power?
Globally, or are you talking about who's getting nukes next?
Both. Because look at that region. Iran's had that issue for a long time. We know China has had it. And now that all of that is going on right now, and
there is nothing to stop.
You haven't heard a single thing on mainstream media about whose nuclear capabilities are going to do what now that the United States is out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like this, literally, I said earlier that we've said for years that this could be the verge of World War III. Guess what, folks? Hell's gates are open right now.
Yeah, so I would certainly agree, and I even put out a soundbite that said that we will reap the fruits of this unmitigated Afghanistan disaster for the next century, and beyond, in geopolitical decline. So imagine this: you're one of the pretty good sized kids on the playground, right? And the other two pretty good sized kids on the playground team up with two or three or four of the little kids, and they all gang up on you, and you get knocked down. Well, now you're down on the ground, and now you got 4, 5, 6 other kids piling on top of you, and they're taking advantage of the situation that you're now down on the ground, and they are going to beat the ever living crap out of you. Now, that's a little bit of a silly example, but that's I think a pretty good assessment of where we are. We have put ourselves on the ground because we were colossally stupid and foolish. We are now shown to be a paper tiger, as I said before. We have shown ourselves to be catastrophically untrustworthy. We have tremendous domestic as well as international distrust. The American people, Joe Biden's approval poll dropped, I think it was 7 or 8 points yesterday alone. The American people are not trusting their government. The government within it is not trusting themselves within the government. Everybody's pointing fingers. Everybody was, General Milley blamed the intelligence community. The Secretary of Secretary of State, I believe, blamed the Taliban not being willing to fight. Joe Biden blamed Trump. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other, and they're getting nothing done. Meanwhile, on the outside, we've got a lot of enemies that are taking advantage of it. And if you think they're going to let their boot off of our throat for 1 second, you are high as a kite. And because it's not the way this world works. I'll tell you one thing. I'll just tell you real quick, just to illustrate why I'm so passionate about this. I was 30 or so before I finally went to a war zone. I went to Kosovo before I finally saw how freaking ugly mankind can get. And I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it. And I have friends who saw the same things that I saw, and they have never forgotten it. You never forget a mass grave when you see one. You never forget seeing a town that's half burned out, and half the population killed the other half of the population and buried them out back of their houses. You never forget it. So when I came back to America, I had such a new appreciation for what we've got here. And there's so many Americans that have no idea what they've got. We've got no idea what we've got. And it infuriates me, and it breaks my heart. And I know it's not their fault, but I'm trying to let them know that America is a one-off in history. It is a one-off. And we've got people running around saying that we're a systemically racist country, and that we're fundamentally a bad people, and that the white people are bad, black people are good, Asian people, Muslim people and Middle Eastern people, okay, they're good to go, but everybody else bad. And they're balkanizing us, much like happened in the Balkans, in Kosovo and those surrounding countries there. But people don't know what we got. And they don't know how thin the veneer of civilization is. It is as thin as a piece of tissue paper. Cut off the lights for a couple months in America and see what happens. All right, now I'm off my soapbox.
I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm not going to end this show like we normally do. You guys know where to find us, who we are a part of, other than just the show. I'm going to say this. If we were so bad as a country, if you honestly think that white people are bad or there's a systemic racism and all of this other bullshit that the mainstream media feeds you, the question that I want to end the show with is, why are so many people around the world trying to get here? We'll see you guys next time.